Hi again, Dave Tusek here. In this video, I'm going to share a bit about what exactly we do and how we do it. How does Cloud Medical work? And what exactly am I signing up for when I become a member? So our mission, what we strive to do every day, is to be the highest value primary care practice in the world by combining the most advanced technologies with ancient healing principles, caring for our patients as though they're family, and do it all for the cost of a cup of coffee per day. It's a tall order. It's an aspirational mission, and we have immense plans to continue to improve our systems and our operations and keep expanding our offerings. But that's at the heart of what we're trying to accomplish. So, what are the basic things that we do for our Cloud members on a practical level? Usually we break them down into three main things. First, we want to keep our patients out of the ER and out of the hospital. Second, we want to help our patients optimize how they feel in the here and now in real time, and help them move as close as possible towards thriving and flourishing. And three, we want to make sure that nothing jumps out of the bushes and hurt you in 3 years or 5 years. And all of these goals or efforts take place and spring from a foundation and a deep trust in our ability to activate our own healing potential from within. In fact, in addition to taking care of urgent medical problems, optimizing well-being, early detection and prevention, our main goal for our patients is really for everyone, not just our patients, but for everyone in our culture and society, is to learn how to tap into our innate capacities to be healthy and to heal. And if we do this in a smart way, not in a complicated way, but in a very simple way that's nearly effortless, that almost anyone can do in almost no time, with very little money and no sophisticated knowledge, simple methods to integrate all of the ways that our body uses to unlock and activate and catalyze healing. All of that done very, very simply at an 8th grade level of understanding, so that we can move towards what we consider the real goal of primary care. Because doctor, the origins of that word doctore, means teacher. What is it actually that we're supposed to teach? In our view, the real goal of primary care is to teach people in very simple terms to become anti-fragile by way of salutogenesis. Okay, well, what the heck does that even mean? So first, anti-fragile. It's a very interesting term coined by Nassim Taleb. And it's something far beyond just becoming resilient or resistant. The metaphor is a teacup. Imagine one that's made out of porcelain. And if you drop it on a hard floor, it just shatters. That's a fragile cup. Now imagine it's made of wood or plastic. If you drop it, it may chip or dent, but it doesn't shatter. That's resilient. Now imagine a cup that's made out of a substance that the more you drop it, the more you slam it against the floor, the actually stronger it gets. That's an anti-fragile cup. And in other videos, and when you become a member at Cloud, we'll go into, on a deep level, all the ways that we can become anti-fragile in our lives. Just like a teacup that gets stronger every time you drop it. And this other word, salutogenesis, well, it's another fascinating term that was coined by an Israeli-American psychologist and sociologist who studied Holocaust survivors in the 1960s and 70s. And what he found, very tragically, was that most of these survivors found it extremely hard or even impossible to return to what we would generally call a normal life. Sadly, about 70 or 75% just couldn't do it. But what Antonovsky said was, okay, I want to devote my career and my entire professional life to understanding the 25% that did. What made them different? What were their characteristics and traits? What similarities did they have that the others didn't? And he began to assemble a framework of what he called salutogenesis, which means salute, health, genesis, the generation or source of. So he began to describe the source code of health and healing. And he deserves a ton of credit for that. We need to, in my view, bring him into the healthcare conversation much more often than we do. But even since his time, he died in 1994, our understanding of salutogenesis, of health generation, has dramatically increased. And so what we're really interested in at Cloud Medical is, what is the salutogenic basis of human anti-fragility? What are all the major ways that can support that? How does it work? And how can we incorporate these kinds of ideas of innate healing into our lives to accomplish our great goals, right? Simple goals. We want longer health span, we want greater lifespan, and we want better neuroplasticity. We want to stop getting acutely sick. We want to avoid and offset chronic diseases, which includes also offsetting cognitive decline and waning energy levels and vitality. And we want to avoid chronic pain, acute illness, chronic disease, chronic pain. Those are the things we want to offset. If we do that, we can say, wow, we've really cracked the code on health span, lifespan, and neuroplasticity. But for now, let's get into the three main things that we do at Cloud in a bit more depth. So we mentioned keeping patients out of the ER as much as possible. We're available for urgent matters. We do everything possible to get people in when they have an acute medical emergency that's not life-threatening. If it's life-threatening, please go to the ER. If you contact us, we're going to send you to the ER anyway. But when I was an emergency physician, it just blew me away how many people I was seeing in the ER in this massive, expensive hospital-based setting where it costs 5 to 10 grand just to walk through the door. And I thought, geez, how many of these patients could I handle in my little tiny office with one little medical assistant on an outpatient level in my clinic? And I thought it was 60, 70, sometimes even 80%. And so yes, that's a huge way that we can save our patients money. Our model is called direct primary care, and 10 years ago, I wrote an article about the massive cost savings of that model just by keeping patients out of the hospital and ER. And there's a link in the show notes to that article too, if you want to read it. So that's the first way. The second way that we work with our patients at Cloud is we help you optimize. Just absolutely stunning the amount of diagnostic tech that we now have that we never even had a few years ago. So what's involved in optimization? Well, a common thing that we see is someone who's 30 or 40 or 50 years old, who may be in decent shape and pretty good health, they come in and they say, Doc, I'm doing okay overall, but lately, man, I've been getting these headaches. My energy's dipped, or I'm not sleeping well, or my mood has become a bit more blue, or my libido's down. So rather than saying, oh gosh, obviously you're just depressed, here's some Zoloft, we can begin to unpack what may be the key drivers of those symptoms. And what's important to note here is that not every person needs every test. There are so many diagnostic tools that we can choose from. And at Cloud, we don't mark up the costs of those tests for profit. You pay exactly what I pay when I run them all myself. But the trick is to identify the tests that are the most likely to yield some kind of actionable data, something that we can fix or address. So for those symptoms that I mentioned, we got to consider maybe there's not enough of something good, like a deficiency of some kind, maybe a deficiency of hormones like testosterone or progesterone or thyroid hormone, or maybe a deficiency of a mineral or a vitamin, or maybe there's too much of something bad, toxicity. Could they be eating too much sushi and now they have mercury poisoning, or too many carbs and now they're metabolically dysregulated, or they had a leak in the roof and now there's mold coming down and mycotoxin exposure, or they have food sensitivities that are causing leaky gut that we can now detect very effectively with a microbiome test. So again, not everybody needs a microbiome test and a food sensitivity test and a heavy metal test and mycotoxin test every quarter, but some people do. And we just need to understand the likely underlying causes, the root causes, the source causes of the issues that are driving those symptoms before we dive in and try to put a Band-Aid over everything. Optimization is achieved by a deep understanding of root causes. So that's the second thing we do. And then lastly, we have early detection and prevention. We don't want something to surprise you in 3 to 5 years or even later down the line that ambushes you with no warning. What's that about exactly? Well, there's so much here that people really, really need to understand about the 3 main chronic diseases, the 3 main causes of death, and the technology for those is changing at an absolutely astonishing rate. And so let me try to say this without sounding too hyperbolic. We are now pretty much at a Star Trek level of medicine. Our tools for early diagnosis are getting so incredibly good that while, of course, we can't say this yet 100% of the time, I would say that most of the time if somebody says, look, doc, can you make it so that I don't die of a heart attack? We can now say yes a very substantial amount of the time. And that simply was not true 2 or even 3 years ago. So even more surprisingly, we're moving in that same direction with cancer as well. We also have early blood tests that are getting extremely good at detecting earliest stages of Alzheimer's. So let me just say that the 3 main chronic diseases, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and neurodegenerative conditions, they're all about early detection. If we know at the earliest point that there's something wrong, let's say stage 1 cancer, we can treat it, again, not in every single case, but in the vast majority of cases, extremely well. So well that your quality of life is essentially unaffected. This is so important to understand because stage 4 cancer is generally a death sentence. And a huge percentage of those who die from heart attacks, their very first symptom that something's wrong with their heart is death. So again, the key to all of this is to identify those individuals that we might call ticking time bomb. The people who wait. If they wait until the symptoms start, they're going to have a massively life-altering experience, either with chemo or surgery, or in the case of heart disease, sudden cardiac death due to a plaque rupture in their widowmaker artery. In our next video, we're going to double-click on everything that you need to know about how not to die of a heart attack, and then we're going to do one on cancer, and we're going to do one on neurodegenerative disease. Thank you again for watching. Thanks for letting us be a part of your personal health journey, and all the best to you.